Welcome to Coffee with Viking. I am Mike. Cheers. Rough selling. Acts 27:14. A wind of typhoon strength called a northeaster burst across the island and blew us out to sea. Escorted by Roman soldiers, Paul probably sets sail in late summer or early fall, near the end of the safe season for voyage. Prevailing winds this late in the year, Etesian winds, blow from the northwest. That's the very direction Paul needs to go to get to Rome. So the 2,000-mile voyage into the wind will take well over a month. That means the ship will probably have to make port somewhere for the winter or risk sailing in perilous seas. After a one-day sailing leg north to Sidon, the soldier in charge arranges for passage on an Egyptian grain ship from Alexandria bound for Rome. Passengers manifest 276 passengers and crew. By the time Paul's ship reaches Myra on the southeastern coast of what is now Turkey, it's already after the Day of Atonement. That means it's after October 5th. If Paul's trip takes place in AD 59, as many Bible experts speculate, this is well into the risky season for sailing. Still, the ship presses on toward the island of Crete, with the zigzag route required to tack into the wind. The ship eventually makes it to Crete, about the halfway point in Paul's voyage. A well-sailed missionary, Paul advises the soldier guarding him to winter at Fair Havens, but the ship's captain prefers the better protected harbor of Phoenix on the west side of the island. So he presses on, keeping the coastline in sight, but a fierce storm called a northeaster engulfs the ship and drives it southwest toward the Syrtis Major, treacherous shallows near North Africa of the coast of Libya. Trying to slow this drive, the crew drops anchor. The winds apparently shift, turning the battered ship northwest toward the destination. 2 weeks after the storm began, Paul's ship runs around along the coast of the small island of Malta, south of Italy and Sicily. There, powerful waves quickly splinter the ship. Astonishingly, not one life is lost. And that is truly the power of God. 3 months later, in the spring of AD 60, Paul and his guards set sail on another Alexandrian ship. After 2 stops along the way, this ship delivers them to Puteoli, now Pozzuoli, a port city south of Rome. From there, Paul and his guards walk to Rome on 2 famous roads, the Via Campana and the Via Appia. Paul is kept under house arrest for 2 years, but is allowed to preach. The book of Acts abruptly ends here without telling what happened to Paul. Perhaps the writer didn't know the end because he wrote Acts before the trial. Or maybe the writer believed his intended readers knew the tragic finale all too well. Some scholars speculate that Paul was tried in AD 62 and executed. Others, leaning on snippets of writing from early Christian leaders, say he was released and made yet another journey. I will come to see you on my way to Spain, he once wrote to believers in Rome, and that'll be in Romans 15:28. The Roman bishop Clement, writing in about AD 96, confirmed that Paul went to the limit of the west, implying Spain on the empire's western perimeter. If this is what happened, Paul was probably arrested a second time, taken to Rome again and executed, perhaps during the persecutions that started after Nero blamed Christians for burning Rome in AD 64. And on this little side note, cheap seat selling, Paul sailed during each of his 4 major trips. Sea voyages were relatively cheap. A family's fare for passage from Athens to Alexandria, Egypt, a distance of about 600 miles, was only about 2 days' wages. But since the main purpose of the ships was to carry cargo, the fare did not include food or cabins, though it did include water. And another side note here, when to sell or not. It is safe around May 27th to September 14th. The risky times is March 10th to May 26th, and September 15th to November 11th. And it's dangerous around November 12th to March 9th. And right here, Paul's voyage to Rome, which it's showing a map there. Typhoon ahead. Summer is the safest time to sail the Mediterranean, but under Roman guard. Paul sails for Rome in a risky season, and with trade winds blowing in the wrong direction. They leave Caesarea in the late summer and Myra in early October. This almost guarantees they'll need to find a winter harbor. They try for Phoenix, but a massive storm snatches them at Fair Havens and pummels the ship for 2 weeks before running it aground at Malta. And the final side note, the Roman roads, which they're showing right there. Rome had a network of more than 50,000 miles of paved roads and 200,000 miles of secondary roads. The paved roads were especially for soldiers and merchants to help preserve peace and prosperity, but the roads also helped Paul and other Christians spread news about Jesus. Roman roads, some of which survive, were generally 10 to 12 feet wide. Construction began by digging a straight trench about 3 feet deep. Workers filled this with a layer of tightly packed stones, followed by another layer of smaller stones bound with cement. The center rose higher than the sides, which allowed for good drainage. The road's top was paved with large flat stones pieced together like a puzzle, with pebbles filling in any gaps. Brush was cleared from the roadside to make it harder for robbers to surprise travelers. Paul's final leg to Rome. On his way to trial in Caesar's high court, Paul walked on this ancient Roman road, the way of Appia, or Via Appia in Latin, the Roman language. I love you all. Stay blessed. Stay caffeinated. May you all have a good evening. Much love.